What's good? It's your boy, Brother Royce. One time for your mind, though. We are live on G.L.U.E Movement Radio, and we are here with the cultural ambassador of all of Pompano right here.
Yeah,
and this is Mr. Miller. Mr.
Yes,
Miller,
sir.
introduce yourself.
Hey, it's me, David Miller, and culture arts ambassador. That just means I bring value to locations and services. I help make the culture rich by giving historical facts,
Right.
by giving solutions to problems, by making people aware of what culture identifies culture. You do know that sushi is Japanese, not Chinese. If you find sushi in a Chinese restaurant, you might be losing, I don't know, you might be catching a little too much of everything instead of one thing. So yeah, that's just my little spiel of culture arts ambassador.
Right. You know, we here at G.L.U.E Movement Radio, we're always dealing with culture, culture, culture. Whenever you hear the whole debate about what's black and what's white, it never deals with people. It deals with culture. What defines your culture? The culture is what sets your mentality, is what determines the way you think. So we're always delving into the culture, and that helps us understand who we are as a people and where we're learning and we're growing from. So this is a great place for us to be and learn more about what is black culture. So I came here Juneteenth, June 19th, to my brother Miller's event, and even I learned some new information, but we're gonna let him explain more. I'm just gonna ask him a few questions, that I had and maybe some of the other viewers have, and we're gonna really get a greater explanation of what is Juneteenth, okay? And we here with the perfect person to ask that. So what I didn't know about Juneteenth, 2019 actually hits the 400-year mark of slavery. And I've heard 430, I've heard almost 500, but explain to me why Juneteenth is the official 400-year mark for slavery. What's the time range that's measured for that 400 years?
All right, so what's happening is, we could take this off the vault. This is my exhibit. So we was here, and what happened with Juneteenth is a celebration that people in America, blacks to be exact, that were slaves, didn't know that they was free. So it was passed that slaves are emancipated. So they had to make it well known in Texas that you are free. 1865, all right? So what Juneteenth is a celebration of it. Let me first read you off a little bit of what we have here. Juneteenth, also known as Emancipation Day, symbolizes the end of slavery, commemorates the reading of Republican President Abraham Lincoln, the General Order Number 3, June 19, 1865, in Texas. He announced freedom slaves. So now, that's what Juneteenth means. So in the summertime, imagine, before all that TV, before all your cars, and before all BET came out, they said, free the slaves, because they've been free. This is 1800s. Now, 400 years? Today, this year, 2019, marks 400 years since the first documented slave. We have not been slaves the whole time. All right, so this is the proof. Juneteenth celebration is the proof that we were emancipated. We went from being owned by a person, private. A person was owned by a person. We went from that. Emancipated means you must release that person to be free to acquire a job or live out in the free world. So, June 1865, you was released from being under a person as a slave. So that means you're emancipated and you're free at that point. The word emancipated and the word freedom is two different things, but I'm just trying to give you why Juneteenth is a great celebration. This is the announcement that we don't have to be under a person. Now, emancipated means you're freed from an individual, but now you're property of the state. We'll talk about that totally different time. So your state property, that means this gives the reason for a social security number, because now the government says you are a part of our nation. So you're not my person, but you are the government's person. You know what I'm saying? So this right here was an exhibit, a place for all people, and we understand that America is pretty much an immigrant country built by Chinese Americans, Black Americans, most definitely Black African Americans. So Juneteenth is a beautiful thing. I gave this paper which has a timeline of a lot of things that was done. Let me give you the one thing that I had put in there, what marks the 400 years. Juneteenth is a special year in African American history. 400 years ago, a ship arrived in Virginia bearing human cargo. The arrival, 20 enslaved Africans. It's been called the beginning of U.S. slavery. 1619, the beginning of U.S. slavery. First slave ship documented bringing human cargo. Does that mean that was all the slaves? No. Does that mean there wasn't Black people here before that? No. That just means we documented and we found 1619. We most definitely know that African American slaves was here in 1619. We do know Africans was traveling the whole world way before then, but we're talking about the enslavement in America. Yeah.
Wow. So from 1619 to 2019 marks 400 years. What is, in your mind, you the one who run the event, in your mind, what does that signify for our people? I mean, we were already physically free, which is 1865.
Correct.
So now what does us now, this being the 400-year mark, what does that then signify for our people if we were already free in 1865? What is the grand scheme of Juneteenth?
Yes. Well, Juneteenth, again, is the emancipation of the Africans being freed in America. So we generally was already here 200 years, 1600 to 1800. 200 years we was here as slaves. But if we're emancipated in 1865, then that means we have a good 200 more years that we've been free. So we should understand our emancipation. Now, I keep using these different terms because emancipated means you can't own me. But that doesn't mean that we're allowed. The thing about it, it's a play of words, y'all, and we still dealing with it. We're the only culture that has to deal with fighting for human rights, fighting for civil rights, then fighting for the right to have a voice. So we was emancipated, all right? So now that's our human rights. We get the pursuit of happiness. We get to have pursuit of justice and liberty. So now, that word liberty, let's show you how tricky it gets. You liberated means I acknowledge you controlled me. So now, you just emancipated me, allowing me to have liberty of justice, liberty of pursuit of my happiness. So there's still, because I'm acknowledging that liberty, I'm still not completely free. Because freedom, I don't need to ask you for nothing, all right? So that's that whole thing where everybody be talking about sovereignty. Sovereignty means we self-sustaining and we can get funded through anything and they come to us as a nation. African Americans, we dealing with a dilemma where we're gaining liberty through the American government. Liberty is a good word, but again, you're asking for permission to be free.
Right. So 1865 was the emancipation. Yes. If I heard you correctly, emancipation means that I cannot be owned by another person, but you're now being your ownership, your papers, the title, the deeds to you is now passed over to the state now. So between 1865 and now, you would say 2019, we're still property of the state.
We're property of America, yes. Now, in some instances, this is a good thing because America is the strongest military, one of the richest nations. And this is proof that the African American built it, what made it so popular. Now, you are livestock. Let's just put that into the play. You are property of a nation that is the strongest nation. This is why we are protected, in a sense, if we go travel the globe. But within our nation, we do suffer injustices because let's just get it right. A lot of people don't understand their liberties and their freedoms. So it's people that's an opposing force that don't want you to understand it, and they oppress you still. This is the problem that we had in the late 1900s, where we were saying we've been freed. Why don't we have civil rights? This is what made Martin Luther King say, we want civil rights. Jesse Jackson was with them as well. This man helped put together something called Jesse Jackson, for us to be able to work together. Jesse Jackson put together to work together.
Was it I know it wasn't Emancipation Proclamation. Affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative
there we
action.
go. Affirmative action.
Yeah.
So you got a man fighting for civil rights. His homie fighting for the fact that we want women and blacks to work, which was what?
That's the affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Got you.
Don't forget about Malcolm X. This
Got
man is globally saying that the African Americans in America is the most powerful nation. He was telling other nations that gaining diplomatic force, white supremacy did not like that. So there is the reason why it came into the 1900s, deep into the 1900s, meaning 60s and 70s, where you thought that it would have been clearly over with, and still was racism still going on, because we actually had that force building the power to become the forefront of America. That couldn't happen in certain people's minds.
Right.
You know?
Right. And do you think that's still the case where, when it comes to one thing I've always talked about when it comes to black culture, the reason why things are so tough for us and so hard for us, because it's like every generation is starting over at zero.
Correct.
You know, we don't have a lot of generational wealth. We don't have a lot of if you go on Google and you look up businesses and how long some of the longest businesses have been in their families. You have some businesses that are 5th, 6th, 7th generation businesses, and the African American has not even 2nd or 3rd generational businesses. Yes, you have Black Wall Street. You have the Civil Rights Movement. You have Malcolm X, Nation of Islam, which is rebuilding now. But you've had every time we have taken the means to try to build something that can be generationally passed down, it has historically been destroyed by the nation. So do you believe that this is why most people speak the narrative that we have actually been like enslaved for 400 years, whether in property to a person or in property to a government, but still not the property of our own freed selves?
I do believe that would be the reason why people would feel that way, most definitely. Because don't forget, we actually went to war for this country.
Right.
World War I, World War II. In World War II, we was promised house, education as soldiers of the United States. Come to find out, the African Americans did not receive the house, which would have been the wealth builder, because I can pass down property and all of that. But the white soldiers did receive that. So these are the schemes that systematically put in place that'll make you sound like you're crazy, but we're not crazy. We also do know, a lot of people understand the word redlining. So on that side of town, you don't want to invest nothing, but then they'll come purchase it for the low and move you out of that, which is gentrification. So now we understanding that they're judging us by our 3rd grade reading level if you're going to be going to prison as well. So a student or a child in the 3rd grade who's figuring out life, they're saying that if you're not figuring it out by 3rd grade, you have no chance. You're possibly 80% chance going to be in prison. So they say that about our people. Now, what about the opportunity that's provided for us? No one really said that this is a nation of opportunity for the black man.
Right.
So yes, I feel like that would be a way of saying that we still under a slave system. You know, I'm not going to tell you that having a job makes you a slave, because you do have the freedom to pursue wealth. Right. Because you can't say I quit. You can't just say I quit and you're a slave. So the terminology, we must definitely understand that. And again, the Negro dealt with it, trying to build a political party, which was the Panthers. Criminalized. All of our young, inspiring people of the 2000s, all of them demonized, because they went under this spell of wanting the tattoos and all this and that, and they just the imagery of them has become negative. So for us to get And imagine this as well. You can get a car loan. You get a loan for a house. You can get a student loan. All those can come fairly easy. But our country don't give us business loans.
Right.
A way to make the money.
Right.
Everything else that I probably mentioned is a way for you to pay them.
Right.
But they don't give you that business loan for them to say, okay, all 5 of you guys, we giving y'all money to run a business, creating a coalition to be self-sustaining. No, they don't really do that.
Right.
You know, but they most definitely want you to fall into that student loan where you're going to be in that debt for life. For at least the 10 years.
So I guess a last question I would have for this segment is, I'm looking at this picture right here. Freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming ownership of that freed self was another. How do you think? I believe that 1865 would be freeing yourself was one thing. Us being physically free. Am I correct in believing that Juneteenth is us being given a chance to claim ownership of our free self?
That's definitely what that is. That's definitely what that is. What Juneteenth symbolizes, imagine you guys, we've been in America on document since the 1600s, the African American. Now, that puts me 7 generations in, you know, so we've been here. All the advancements that's been happening, we've been seeing it and been playing a part in it. So that is us practicing our liberty to be able to do. And this nation has become more advanced than a lot of other nations. Now, a lot of people forget a black man by the name of Frederick Douglass is the one that drew up them papers and helped Lincoln, the president at the time, be able to say the right verbiage to freedom. Now, let's arguably saying that it wasn't that great because they used the word emancipated. That just means all of y'all who own slaves, you are now under by law need to release them. Give them an opportunity to do it. Now, a slave and an indentured servant is 2 different titles. Some black folks stayed with their master. They was like, nah. And then I'm not gonna be mad at everybody who white because a lot of slaves inherited the master's plantation. A lot of slaves had babies from the master, and the master went on to make a life with their slave instead of their wife. So let's not just say, oh, the devil is the white man, period. You know, we just, and then don't forget the Portuguese and the Muslims ran slavery a whole lot longer than the white Americans. So, you know, we got to point the blame at ourselves sometimes. I hate to sound like Kanye West, because Kanye West said that freedom became a choice at some point. Because you could have said, I'm leaving the country when you became emancipated. You could have said, I'm going to the free states. A lot of people stayed right in that house and said, I don't know what to do, but what I'm doing. And all my family eating off it because there was not a dense population, so everybody was eating good. You know? So again, Frederick Douglass, beautiful name to remember, as we not in African American History Month, but we celebrating the African American holiday. You know, the chains got broke in the 1800s, and I think that, you know, some people have good argument about how we should still fight for our rights as human beings. So I believe that we're in a beautiful time because there's a whole lot of wealthy African Americans, and a lot of people understand now that they're working with us as Americans. You know, I keep saying it specifically African Americans because, you know, we just claim it's our bloodlines. Because everybody love, and that's what Jesse Jackson came with, the affirmative action. Let's not discriminate on nobody. And then he came with the Rainbow Coalition. This is in the 70s. Rainbow Coalition means you're from somewhere else, but we all represent America. That means you can call yourself Chinese American. You can call yourself Russian American. Just putting America on the back end of it, making this land of the free, land of the pursuit of liberty and happiness. So yeah, the American dream is real, but is it fair? It's a different question. You know? So that's what ownership of that free self. You're free, but is it fair? You got to find your purpose in that. You know, because freedom don't mean organized. Freedom means chaos. Like, I'm out here, but how am I gonna eat? I'm out here, but who's with me?
Yeah.
I'm out here, but they say that I shouldn't be out here.
Mm-hmm.
You're free though.
Mm-hmm.
So if they saying you shouldn't be out here, then what does that mean? So yeah.
I think that's why it's a great opportunity. The reason we're here, G.L.U.E Movement Radio,
Yes.
is to help begin to unite and organize our people and bring our people together. And I believe the fact that we've been given the opportunity to have this platform and do what we're doing at the same time. It's the exact 400-year mark since we came here. At the same time where now countries and other places in Africa is now opening their borders and granting easy visas for people from the African diaspora who want to come back and build land. At the same time that Akon is in Senegal and building up different solar panels and building up different cities and offering different business and economic development plans for anyone of the African diaspora who wants to come to the continent. I truly believe that this is if for lack of a better words, omen. I don't know if omen has a good connotation or a bad connotation, but I've heard of such things. When it comes to spirituality and metaphysically, I've heard of such thing as the rising and falling of many. And when you go over to Africa, you go over to the continent, you go over to G.L.U.E, you go over to that land, those people believe heavily in prophecy. Heavy. I mean, there are murals outside of the slave dungeons where it's scriptures, but written on the wall and next to the person who spoke it. So there's Marcus Garvey written on the wall. There's Marcus Garvey. There's a picture of him on the wall, and his speeches is written in the wall as a prophecy. This will come to pass. There's pictures of Malcolm X and Frederick Douglass and all of the people over here who led great revolutions. Everything that they spoke over here is etched in a wall in Africa, and it's a memorial. The people come and they read it and they study it and they ask God to bring everything they spoke to pass. It's prophecy over there,
I want to give a special shout out to Akon, because as he said, a lot of stuff that's happened in America, people looking at that. Akon, shout out to your $1 billion initiative.
Big time.
$1 billion initiative in Africa. That is a man who came as a musician in America and took to the top with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big time.
Yeah.
And then also, I just want to end with, we are now in the information age. Gather the information and start putting it to use and sharing the opportunities. Share the opportunities, man. Don't lock it down and be running off with it.
Yeah.
If you see somebody that understands and knows something, tell them about this opportunity and see what they can do with it.
Right.
That's unifying right there.
And what did you tell them about Google? What you
I
like
most
Google about how to
definitely
find information?
I said, I encourage you to not use Google, but find books to research this information. I got the timeline of what the African Americans has achieved in this land. And this land branches out further than a lot of people understand. People understand us for doing monumental stuff. 2018, the biggest record-breaking movie was Black Panther.
Yeah.
So now they making movies to try to compete with that.
Right.
Coincidentally, 68 was when they attacked the Black Panther movement. So now here we go with that years, 18, them years. So everything, I hate to say it, but like my brother said, everything is prophesied. So now prophecy, and I'm gonna use another word, syncrecy. Things is just, timeline is just coming together. And I don't know if you study astrology or you believe in zodiacs or this and that. Let's just say nothing new under the sun, and things do collectively happen for a reason.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that's so important, do your research, go find the books, go find the information. Especially, let me tell you about Google and YouTube. Artists were like, well, how can you talk about Google and YouTube? It's not a good platform to find information when you use Google and YouTube yourself. Here's the thing about Google and YouTube. You can find anything to back up any point you have. And I've done it. I've had one point like, okay, I'm for this and I'm against this. And I was able to go on YouTube, I was able to go on Google and find scientists and studied scholars for both sides. Google will never bring you to a definite side. YouTube will never bring you to a definite side. You understand? So if you're looking for a definite belief system out of social media, out of Google, out of YouTube, you will find just as much scientific in the 1800s this happened for oppose as for. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people have, okay, I believe in this. This is what I feel. You know, I accept this. And then when they go on Google, they see some 60-year-old, 70-year-old scientists like, well, I have scientific information that this is not true and that this is not there. You will find that for every single side. So at the end of the day, you do have to get into these libraries and speak to the people. You do have to be around the people who have the information for you. Because remember something, there was something that was written in the letter Willie Lynch. It said, the minds of the slaves have a strong drive to auto-correct itself. So it said this Willie Lynch, this letter, this indoctrination will last about 400 years. It's 400 years, 2019. This was written in that Willie Lynch letter. And it says, when their mind begins to seek to auto-correct itself, it said, we will put out a layer of multiplicities, a layer of different illusions, a layer of different confusions and stories, so that when the mind is free, they'll get trapped in another vacuum as they're trying to find the answers. So, oh, well, the 5%ers. Oh, well, you got the Black Hebrew Israelites. Oh, well, you have this organization, that organization, and the Scientologies, and this and that, and crystals and rocks, and this and that, and that, and that, and this and this and that. I don't know what the truth is anymore. I'm just going back to my comfortable place.
And that comfort is not going to take you far.
It's not going to take you anywhere. So you have to get inside of you. You have to know yourself. You have to connect with that God within. You have to connect with your intuition. And you have to get on your knees and you have to pray and you have to ask, my God, Most High, lead me and direct me to the answers. God will not show you anything if you're not ready for it. A lot of people don't have the information because they're not ready for it. Information comes with responsibility. Information comes with gravity. Information comes with weight. So until you get on your knees before your God and say, I'm ready for the information, show me what I need to see. Show me what I need to hear. Bring me to the places that's going to help me find the answers that I need to answer the questions that I have. When you're able to make that prayer, when you're able to sit in front of your Almighty, in front of your God and ask those questions, He'll begin to lead you to the books. He'll begin to lead you to the YouTube videos. He'll begin to lead you to the websites, and He'll begin to lead you to the people that you need to be around to get the answers. But if you're thinking that the internet is going to be your major source for finding out who you are as an African man and as a black man, you are very sadly mistaken.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. It wasn't made for us. So therefore, no information can be given through that platform that will ultimately lead to you living in any other condition than what you're living in right now. Everything is truths mixed with a lot of different stuff. So when you're being led by your intuition and you're being led by your own desire and passion to know who you are, it will help you to pull the truth out of everything that is mixed with. But it will never be an ultimate source of truth. The ultimate source of truth is the person looking back at you in the mirror. You have to understand that person, and you have to understand the God of that person looking back at you in the mirror, and the God living in the person looking back at you in the mirror.
All right. Good.